You enter Vault 11, expecting monsters, maybe weapons, maybe a few supplies hidden beneath the ruins of the Mojave. Instead, you find election posters. One candidate is called a coward. Another is accused of corruption. The walls look like the remains of a vicious political campaign. But this election was different. The residents of Vault 11 were not choosing who would lead them. They were choosing who would die.
Hidden inside Fallout New Vegas is one of the darkest experiments in the entire Fallout universe. And the most disturbing part is not what Vault-Tec asked people to do. It is how quickly ordinary people found a way to live with it. When the bombs fell, Vault 11 sealed its doors. The residents believed they had survived the end of the world. They had food, water, power, and protection from the radiation outside. Then, the Vault's computer gave them a message. Every year, they had to sacrifice one resident. If they refused, everyone in the Vault would be killed.
Imagine hearing that announcement. One person, or everyone. At first, the choice probably felt impossible, but impossible choices become easier when they are turned into procedures. So the residents created a system. Each year, they would elect an overseer, and at the end of that overseer's term, the chosen person would enter a chamber beneath the vault. The door would close. A recorded voice would thank them for their service. Then the machinery would kill them.
But here is where it gets strange. The residents did not merely accept the sacrifice. They built a political culture around it. Voting blocs formed. Campaign posters appeared. People spread accusations about their neighbors. Nobody wanted to win the election. They wanted someone else to win. Vault 11 transformed democracy into a weapon. And because everyone participated, no individual had to feel completely responsible.
Psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility. When many people share a decision, personal guilt can become strangely quiet. One person pulls the lever, another writes the rule, another simply votes. Everyone contributes, but each person can tell themselves they were only one small part of the machine.
Inside Vault 11, survival did not destroy morality all at once. It divided morality into pieces small enough for everyone to carry. Then came Katherine Stone. A powerful voting group called the Justice Bloc threatened and exploited her, demanding her cooperation to keep her husband from being selected. She eventually killed several of its members, but the remaining bloc retaliated by nominating Katherine herself. She won. That meant she would become overseer, and then she would die.
But Katherine did something nobody expected. Once in power, she ended the election system. Future sacrifices would be selected randomly by computer. It sounded fairer, but the political groups had never truly cared about fairness. They cared about control. Without elections, they could no longer decide who entered the chamber. The vault erupted into violence. By the end, almost everyone was dead. Only 5 residents remained, and those 5 finally made the choice that hundreds before them had been too afraid to make. They refused to sacrifice anyone. They walked into the chamber together. They expected the vault computer to kill them. Instead, they heard a cheerful recorded message. Congratulations.
The vault itself had never intended to kill everyone. The real experiment was to see whether the residents would refuse. All they had to do was say no. The door would have opened. They would have been free. But they continued the sacrifices for years. This is the great reversal of Vault 11. We assume it is a story about what people will do to survive. It is actually a story about what people will accept when fear becomes authority. The computer had no army, no guards, no way to physically force the residents to choose a victim. Its greatest weapon was certainty. It gave them a rule, and they treated that rule as reality.
History contains uncomfortable echoes of this. People often obey systems they privately believe are wrong because everyone else appears to be obeying too. We look around for signs of resistance. When we see none, silence begins to resemble agreement. And eventually, participation feels more normal than refusal. The 5 survivors understood this too late.
Near the entrance to Vault 11, the player can find 4 bodies and hear a recording of their final conversation. Some wanted the truth to remain buried. They could not bear the thought of the outside world learning what they had done. 4 gunshots followed. 1 survivor may have walked away. We never learn what happened to that person. Perhaps that mystery is the final punishment of Vault 11. Someone survived the experiment, but survival meant carrying the memory of everyone who did not.
Vault-Tec designed many cruel experiments across the Fallout universe. Some used radiation, some used disease, some changed the human body. Vault 11 did something simpler. It placed ordinary people inside an immoral system and waited to see how long it would take them to question the system itself. The answer was 16 years, hundreds of lives, and almost the entire vault. Because the most dangerous rules are not always the ones enforced with violence. Sometimes they are the ones everyone follows, because nobody wants to be the first person to say no.